All right, so in the last video, we showed you how to calculate a property tax rate, okay? This one, we're gonna go over what these 3 ballot questions entail. So again, there are 3 ballot questions that voters will see on April 8th. This is the first time that the Independence has ever put any of these type of municipal bond issues before the voters. So this is kind of a historic moment for Independence. Other cities use it for other things, but Independence has never used it. And for this one, they have gone ahead and they have put 3 questions worth a total of $197 million in bonds on the April 8th ballot. And that's a big number, right? Almost $200 million. That's a lot of money, okay? And this would be paid through property taxes, okay? And there are 3 questions. So question 1 is public safety. And so this one primarily involves the police department. Right now, the police headquarters, which is on the northeast corner of Independence Square, there at the corners of Noland Road and Truman Roads, is about 50 years old. And it was designed for about 150 to 200 staff members. Well, currently, Independence Police Department has 330 members when they're fully staffed. So obviously, they don't have the space that they really need for that, for their police department, which has grown considerably in the last 50 years. And so what they'd like to do, because the Independence Power and Light is vacating their property at East 23rd Street and 291 Highway to move to the GEHA building near Little Blue Parkway and I-70. What they'd like to do is they'd like to take over that space and create a new justice campus, a new justice center that would include a new jail, a new municipal court, and that would bring all of the police operations under one umbrella. Because currently some investigation units have already had to be moved off-site from the Independence headquarters. And the K-9 unit, for instance, is way out in Eastern Independence. They would be able to bring everything together. They would build a new training center that would meet the needs of a modern police department. It also would allow them to bring regional law enforcement clinics and training opportunities to that Independence campus. And in theory, they could actually monetize some of that. But to renovate that campus would cost $123 million. So question 1 overall is a $130 million bond with $123 million earmarked for the new Justice Center. The other $4 million would be used to demolish the existing Independence Police headquarters. And then it also includes $3 million to buy the Jackson County Regional Animal Shelter. Currently, the City of Independence operates it, but they don't own the building. So when it comes to maintenance issues or things they'd like to do with the property, they're not allowed to. Again, if they buy it, if they own it and they operate it, they could open that up to other cities and have them bring their, make contract with them to bring their animals there, contract with the county to bring their animals there. And in theory, there could be some offset in terms of, monetizing that if they own and in addition to operating it. But that's what question 1 would cover, okay? So that is $130 million of the $197 million is just this public safety bond, okay? Question 2 is infrastructure, okay? So question 2 is roads, bridges, and sidewalks. All right, so for this one is a total of $55 million. That's the bond, that's the ask on question 2, is $55 million for these infrastructure projects, okay? The bulk of that, $30 million, is for street resurfacing. The city already has a program, yes, but it doesn't have enough money to meet the needs of the city because the cost of resurfacing has gone up since they last asked for money for it. So they want another $30 million for that project, okay? There's another $10 million earmarked in here for sidewalks. And the sidewalks they want to put in are around 7 elementary schools, 5 in the Independence School District and 2 in the Fort Osage School District. Now, some of them already have sidewalks. They're just in disrepair. Some of them have no sidewalks at all, which makes it unsafe for the kids that are walking to school. So what they want to do in that case is build these sidewalks around these 7 schools. And so they've earmarked about $10 million for that. The last bit is $15 million, and that is for bridges, specifically for 14 bridges and 97 culverts that they've identified that are in disrepair. Some of these bridges, 5 of these bridges, in fact, are already closed. Another one is partially closed, and then there's several of the bridges that are in danger of having to close in the near future if they don't receive some sort of attention, if they don't get fixed and address some of the structural issues that are starting to come up. And so that $15 million would go toward addressing those needs. So that's question 2, and it would be a pretty significant investment in the roads, bridges, and sidewalks and the infrastructure around town. But again, that's something that everybody uses, and it's something that the city just says they don't have enough money for in their existing funds, and so that's why they're coming to voters and asking for this additional bond question. The last one, question 3, is the cheapest of the 3, and this one is for the athletic complex and for historic buildings. And this one is a $12 million bond. Okay, and so again, part of the city council's calculus here is that this athletic complex is something of an underutilized asset. Just like with the Justice Center, where they could, in theory, make some money by attracting more regional law enforcement conferences and offering training opportunities to other law enforcement agencies that would pay to use their space for training purposes in certain instances, or contract with other cities to bring their animals to the Jackson County Regional Animal Shelter. This athletic complex currently has softball fields, baseball fields, soccer fields, and some football fields, but it's not specific enough to any one sport to attract some of the big tournaments that also attract a lot of spending from parents who have to come spend the day there. So they think that what they'd like to do is turn this into a soccer-specific complex. So think Shields out in Overland Park, something like that, except this one would be in eastern Jackson County, and they would try to kind of get into the sports tourism business a little bit, and then they would find ways to improve the stock of baseball and softball fields and things like that at other parks that the city owns across the city. But they want $5 million of this $12 million bond to go toward this athletic complex part. And then the other $7 million would go toward historic buildings. And the 3 main ones that need attention, because whether it's asphalt work in the parking lots, concrete work around the structure, exterior work, or in the case of the historic Truman Building, some pretty significant flooding issues, some pretty significant roof issues, they need money for deferred maintenance in some of these projects. And so you're talking the Vail Mansion, the Bingham Wagner Estate, and then the historic Truman Building on the square. Those are the 3 that would get the bulk of this $7 million if voters approve. But there's one more caveat to these 3 ballot questions, okay? And yes, one could pass, so you could vote yes on question 1, and then no on question 2 and question 3, and this one, question 1, would still go into effect. They'd still issue the bonds for this, and this would be that $130 million for the police. Or voters could vote for the roads and bridges, but not the police or the athletic complex. So each one could pass or fail on its own, okay? So you could get all 3 would be $197 million. You could get some other mix of 2 passing, 1 not passing, that kind of thing. But for any of them to pass, each individual question needs to hit 57%. It's not a simple majority. 57% of voters have to vote yes on question 1 for that $130 million bond to go into effect. 57% would have to vote yes on question 2 for that $55 million to go into effect for the streets, the bridges, and the sidewalks. Same thing for question 3. They all would have to reach 57% or they fail. And so that is what's at stake on the April 8th ballot in Independence.